You're watching A River Life, the rest of the story. A video documentary about the life and stories of a riverboat captain with Captain John David Arnold, Captain Harley Hall, Captain Dave Dewey, Captain Butch Harrington, and your host, Captain Larry Barnes. Brought to you by Barnes Marine. Sponsored in part by the Old Bait House, Metropolis Big John, and Western Rivers Boat Management. And now, here's your host, Captain Larry Barnes.
Welcome, folks, to A River Life, the rest of the story. Thank you, viewers, for coming in here. We've got a star-studded cast up here, I call it. These men have been in this industry for a long time. And I'm going to go around and introduce to everybody. Start on my right. We got Captain Butch Harrington. Captain Butch has been on the river for about 42 years, his tenure on the river. To my immediate right, we got Captain Dave Dewey. He's been out here 50-plus years. To my left, Captain Harley Hall. He's been out here 47 years. And on the very end out here, Captain John David Arnold, 46 years. And then you throw my little measly 35 in, we got a grand total of about 220 years, guys. That's pretty impressive, you know. So I'd be safe to say we know there's a lot of river rats out there that can cover that same time frame too, but that covers a lot of ground that we've covered through the years. So what I want to do, everybody always remembers their first day on the boat. You know, it's pretty, you know, I can liken the river life kind of like the military life. You know, everybody always remembers their first day in the military, and they'll tell you how long they was in the military. I think the river folks kind of that way too. So, Captain Butch, tell me about your first day on the boat and who it was with, who'd you work for, and your first day on the boat.
First day on the boat was I hired in with Alter Company out of Davenport, Iowa. And, of course, it was in December. They called after a few years on the river. I realized they called just before Christmas. So you either wanted a job or you didn't. And so I caught the boat in Cairo. And the winter of 77, everybody remembers that winters of 77 and 78. So I caught it at Cairo. There was snow up to my shin, and we were building tow. I'll never forget that. And it was at night. So I either was going to stay with it or wasn't. And for some reason I decided to stay with it.
Yep.
Under conditions like that.
That was pretty severe winter that year. Captain Dave, what about you? Your first day on a towboat. Now I know you worked in your family business, but what was your first time on a towboat?
Well, my first time on a towboat, I was probably about 13 years old, but my dad ran a grain elevator up on the Illinois River, and so that was probably the first time I walked on a towboat. And then I worked on several little harbor boats up there on the Illinois River when I was in school, high school and stuff. First time I caught a line boat was for a company called Port City Barge Line out of Greenville, Mississippi. I had gotten acquainted with some of their folks, and they gave me a job. I caught the motor vessel Moark, 1,800 horsepower boat at Lexington, Missouri, about mile 330 on the Missouri River, and worked up there that summer, and then came back Christmas vacations and summers, and then stayed with them. So
that was your start there.
Started up there on the Missouri River. Yeah, sure did.
Have any of y'all ever, get this, have y'all ever ran the Missouri River? That's kind of a rarity thing like that.
No.
Never?
No, I'm proud of that fact.
Yeah.
I'm proud of it.
You gotta love the pain.
You're one of a kind. That's true. That's
You
true.
gotta be. That's what I tell people. You gotta be a masochist. You
Yes.
gotta love the pain.
Yeah, I've heard that. I've always heard the stories, even when I was a deckhand in the early '80s, talking about standing on the head deck with a sledgehammer. You know,
yeah.
Sledgehammer watch.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, Captain Harley, what about your first day on the boat?
Well, it was in December. It's for Agar Towing Company. And I caught the Lark Captain in Gunnersville Harbor at night. Seems like night's a thing. And just a kid. and I think we'd probably all relate to this. I guess it's around lunchtime. But opened that door and I looked down that passageway, and on both sides, all I saw was old men. Of course, old men to me then was anything over 30 or 35, but they went from 35 on up into their 60s probably. But I didn't realize it at that time, but I realized it later. I was pretty lucky. We were all pretty lucky. We fell in with all that knowledge.
Yeah.
And of course, by the time I got off that trip, I would answer, if I walked down Broadway and somebody said, "Hey, stupid," and followed it by something else, I'd be saying, "What?"
Yes.
But we were fortunate to work with all that knowledge.
Right.
Whereas now you get on a boat and you're lucky if you've got two guys that's got over 5 years on deck.
Exactly.
And at that time,
Yep.
you'd be one green guy and then all this knowledge on there. So
Yep. That's right.
we're lucky.
Right. Captain John, what about yourself?
My first day was in April of '74. I got on the Ovec at Cairo Point. We were leaving the Ohio River fleet, fixing to turn up the upper, and they said, "You go and go to bed, young man." I was like hardly ever, the youngest man on there had 25 years decking. They said, "You go ahead and go to bed, we'll get you in the morning." They turned Cairo Point and got T-boned by a guy coming out of the upper. And they got to holler, "Get up, get your life jacket." I had to hunt a light, they didn't even know where the life jackets were. I had to hunt one up. They said, "Catch a line." I said, What's a line? What are you talking about?" It's my first day. But anyway, we went out through the bushes and the willow trees catching barges all night. I thought, I don't know if this is for me or not. So I got to eat a good breakfast, and I decided I liked it.
Yeah, that meal turned the table, didn't it?
Yeah.
Yep, I understand. Well, my first trip actually took me 2 days to catch a boat, and it was at Dravo-Mecklin, Dave. Imagine that. But it was a learning experience. I was just a dumb old country boy from Livingston County, and never been away from home much, and flew from Paducah here to Memphis, and then flew to Baton Rouge, and the boat had done gone, and I was supposed to have been there. So I learned a lot there in 2 days of traveling, catching a Greyhound bus the next day and headed to New Orleans, and cab was supposed to take me to the boat over on the West Bank. Well, the boat was gone again. So make a long story short, I'm sure my face looked kind of down and out, and it was about supper time on the second day, and this old guy at the fleet, I guess he felt pity for me, and I had no money to give him. So he takes me to where he knew where the boat was at. So we went back to the East Bank and got on it somewhere, but it was the old Southern. And like Harley said, I was a pup, and everybody else on there was in their 40s and 50s. And those old men had a time with me every trip over there during that time, but I learned a lot, and I value that experience back then. It meant a lot to me, and that was some of my early days growing on, and learned a lot. But like you said, Harley, nowadays you're lucky if you get on a vessel, and unless it's a wheelhouse engineer guys, everybody else maybe 5 years, and like you said, John. What's a line? You still get that to this day, it seems like, how you catch a line.
It was a rope to me.
Yeah.
I said, get a rope. Yeah. I did what I was getting.
Yeah. Well,
You ever find that clevis?
Never did.
Was there a story behind that?
Yeah, well, shackle clevis.
Yeah.
We call it a shackle.
Yeah.
Farm boys call it a clevis.
Yeah, that's true.
So there's a lot of confusion there.
Yeah. It's funny how sometimes, not all the time, but any of us that grew up in the rural environment on a farm, and you can relate, cowtail, grass string, I mean, I always thought that was something somebody said, get you some cowtail, go out there and tie rigging, and cowtail,
Every farm boy knows
see a
what
cow.
2 half hitches are.
Yeah.
We didn't know that's what it's called,
Yeah.
but it's 2 half
You
hitches.
used it, but
Yeah. And this day you're trying to point, I tell this day you're trying to point, put a half hitch in it, where they kind of look like, what? What? So my old age, sometimes I get more impatient than I have got patience and stuff.
Which was why those old guys got impatient.
Exactly. And you see that passed down too, so. But I think everybody it's always memorable when you have that first day on the boat, and it's always trying to it stays with you forever, it seems like, and
Absolutely.
Well, the fact is when we all started, there was no orientation, none. I mean, you went from home
To work.
to work.
right to it. And whereas, you know, most companies have they have programs anywhere from 2 weeks mostly to take young people that want to work out there, and they give them an idea of what this rigging's all about, what it is to work on a boat. They work on watches, and most of all, they're preached safety, of course. But they have an idea before they ever catch a boat. We had no idea what we were getting into.
On the job training.
OJT.
You kind of got thrown to the wolves. And I got another story about that. We're going to have to break here in just a minute. We'll be right back.
For over 65 years, the Old Bait House has been keeping your boat water ready. Family owned and operated, we proudly service and sell Mercury, Mercruiser, and Yamaha with quality name brand parts. Our certified mechanics offer the fastest turnaround times in the area on all maintenance and repairs, keeping your boat going, saving you time and money. Keep your boat on the water with the Old Bait House, 2005 Irvin Cobb Drive in Paducah, or online at theoldbaithouse.com.
Metropolis Big John proudly serves the river industry by supplying fresh meat, fresh produce, and groceries to serve your needs. Having at least 3 fresh meat and fresh produce deliveries per week ensures freshness when it arrives. Our policy is always cut and package to order. Be sure to check out our weekly online specials. The money saved more than offsets the delivery cost. We are located in Metropolis, Illinois.
Are you thinking about selling a home on your own? Charlotte, what should they do?
Grab a pen and paper, find out your payoff, price your home, clean up and make repairs, stage your home, take professional photos, upload photos, put your home on the market, market your home, schedule showings, schedule open houses, negotiate offers, write a contract, hire an attorney or title company to complete closing.
Can you remember all that? Me either. Just call Charlotte Pierce with Keller Williams Experience Realty and let her list your home. I certainly would.
Being the largest independently owned, family-operated towing company in the United States, Western Rivers holds fast to traditional core values of the maritime industry, where our customers and employees are treated like family. We have been a leader in the river transportation since 1996 and still going strong. Our commitment to safety and service are what makes us the right choice to meet your transportation needs and can deliver goods anywhere along the inland waterway system. Call us today.
Welcome back, folks, and we're going to continue on what Captain Butch was talking about. You know, you throw it out there and you not really know what to expect. I'll never forget been around the river all my life. My dad worked at Ingram Materials, and never said really about what we just talked about. The next day on the boat, the mate's taking me around, telling me, here's what you got to clean up, you got to mop this and do that, and I thought, that's one of them stories. He's messing with me, you know. I had no idea to think that, who does the cleanup on there? I never thought about that, you know, growing up on a farm or where I was at and in that situation. Never occurred to me, you know. So, again, those little stories kind of stay with you, and they're pretty funny at times when you kind of tell on yourself just a little bit. But let me ask you a question here, guys. I'm going to go around each and every one of you here, because I know you've been around a lot of impeccable men in your careers and stands out. But I've asked you all this earlier to be thinking about this, but I'll start with you again, Cam Butch. What individual stands out to you, or some individuals that stands out to you who are what you call river legends and men that influenced you? Can you tell us about some of those guys?
Oh, sure. My career began with Crown's Corporation here in Paducah.
Right.
I was hired as a deckhand and felt real fortunate in doing so, because it's one of those, somebody has to die in order for you to get a job. And but from the get-go, I caught a boat, the old Louise, which was one of the smaller 1,200 horsepower boats built in Nashville that Crown's had back then. And I caught a boat with Dub Hamilton, running captain, W.C. Hamilton, from Savannah, Tennessee. And that very first, within 2 days on the boat, Dub asked me what I wanted to do. And of course, I should say that I'd already been a year on the river with Alter, but I got this job at Crounce. I knew what I wanted to be a pilot, and I told him. He said, well, I'll do that for you. All you've got to do is come up here and make sure that you catch my log up. If there's instructions from the office or a marine operator, you come up here and write all this down for me. And I said, well, that's not a chore.
Right.
So I began steering the very first trip. And so Dub Hamilton, the 4 years I was with Crounce, I steered for Dub on my time off, of course.
Sure.
There was no steering programs back then. So you had to stay up on your off watch when you should have been sleeping.
Yes.
But if the old man would let me steer, I was all in.
Exactly.
And then Tam Young, Dub retired, went to MG Transport. And I said, well, what am I going to do now? There goes my ticket. But Tam took over. Bill Templeton put me with Tam Young, there again from Savannah or Adamsville, Tennessee. And Tam finished me up. But those two people were the most important in my career because they gave me a career as a pilot.
Yeah.
They made me into what I wanted to be.
Yep, sounds good. Captain John, what about you?
I'd say Captain Charlie King,
Okay.
at Ohio River Company.
Right.
He started out in the engine room, got his way up to the wheelhouse. And I'll never forget, he was so hard on me decking. I'd have to count my money, see if I had enough money to get on off Joliet and get a bus or train to Jackson. But I stayed with him.
Yep.
And
He had a reason behind that.
he had a reason behind it. He let me steer a lot. And like Butch said, there's no such thing as a steersman. When you were a P pilot, they'd go have to use the bathroom, and they'd put you to driving the boat when they got comfortable that you could handle it. So then worked with a few guys down the road, like take a little drink, play cards at night, back in the old days. So you got a lot of steering then. When you relieved them at 5:30, you didn't see them again until the pilot came up.
Yeah.
But Captain Paul Strigle. Of course, I'm from Perryville, and Captain Paul, he was always a legend around there.
Right.
Loved everybody on the towboats. He'd want to know what's going on.
Yeah.
And I ran into him and Charlie at the dollar store after they had retired 4 or 5 years. And they said, Paul, wouldn't you like to go back out there and make one more trip? He said, I sure would. I said, I'm going to tell both of you old guys something. They'd knock you in the head the first day on the boat and throw you in the river. I said, you can't talk to them people out there like y'all did, get rough with them. They'll go crying and you've had it.
Times have changed, didn't it?
So I talked them out of making the trip when they found out some of the stores you go through nowadays dealing with some of the help. And
HR.
they decided they wouldn't make it.
Yeah. A lot different.
Just call it straight up, John D. It's human resources.
That's
There
exactly
was no such
right.
thing as human resources.
They didn't know what
back
it
then.
was.
Yeah. You did all that
You
from the
took the
wheelhouse.
cussing and lived with it.
Human resources.
Yeah, right.
That's
That's
right.
it.
That's right. Captain Harley, what about you?
Well, my biggest influence was, of course, my father. And he was captain on boats. He had a career with him, both my uncles, and they were all captains on boats. So that was a big influence. And I started out on a boat with my father. And then, like Butch, I got the opportunity to go to Crounce, the gold standard of deckhand job.
Yeah, and it was.
Of course, got over at Crounce, and those pilots at Crounce, they were great about letting you steer. You get your work done.
Right.
And you get up there, and they'll let you steer. Jamie Bolin helped me a lot.
Yeah.
And, of course, when I left Crounce, I was decking at Crounce, and I steered a lot for Jamie.
You did the unforgivable.
Yeah.
And I followed you in doing the same thing.
Yeah, and there wasn't an opportunity for me to start in the pilothouse.
Right.
It just wasn't there.
Exactly.
And like Butch said, somebody had to die to get a job there, and so there were a lot of them moving. So Jamie Bolin told me, he said, here, I trip over there. He said, call them up and tell them you're a trip pilot. He said, you can do it, you can do it. So I did. And they said, yeah, we're new pilots. So, I lied. I told them I was a pilot. I've been lying ever since. And I raised 3 kids on that lie.
That's pretty good, wasn't it?
You get a good lie going, stick with it.
That's right.
Stick with
That's
it.
right. It's what pays bills there, ain't it?
And another man that influenced me a lot, and I got a lot of respect for him. We talked about him a while ago. Very smart man, this industrial guy.
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep.
Dan's very impressive.
Yep. had a good conversation with him here a while back. I'll share later on too. But he touched a lot of lives in this industry, no doubt
did.
about it. There, sure did.
A little rough on the edges, not your HR guy.
Yeah. How about you, Cap Dave?
Well, as I told you earlier, I started with Port City Barge Line, and prior to that, working on the little harbor boats. Of course, I got a lot of steering and on the harbor boats working Illinois River. But anyway, they saw, I guess, a little bit of potential, and I wanted to be a pilot like Butch. That's all I ever wanted to do. So, like Butch talked about, and so I did just as these guys talked about. I stayed up off watch. I, got showed the interest, and they helped me out. Main one was Gene Neal. Captain Gene Neal was captain on the old Lester K, and I rode that boat for quite a few years, deckhand, and then moved up and then pilot, and on the Missouri River. And then when the Missouri was closed, we got to run a lot of other places, so got a lot of experience that way. But Gene Neal and then Buck Lay, worked for him at Union Mechlin and National Marine, and then we, both came to Paducah and were good friends over the years. So got some great opportunities, some great people. There's many others that had similar influence on me, work that I learned and taught me, passed that knowledge on that they had. So I was always, when asked or when able to pass on some knowledge, what little knowledge I had, I would, we owed it to the younger guys coming up if they showed the interest and really wanted to learn.
Nowadays, they're selected for you to train. You don't come up through the ranks and prove yourself. You're pretty much selected.
Well, guys, we'll be right back.
Metropolis Big John proudly serves the river industry by supplying fresh meat, fresh produce, and groceries to serve your needs. Having at least 3 fresh meat and fresh produce deliveries per week ensures freshness when it arrives. Our policy is always cut and package to order. Be sure to check out our weekly online specials. The money saved more than offsets the delivery cost. We are located in Metropolis, Illinois.
When I stepped into the world of real estate, I had a passion to help clients find that perfect place to call home. I'm Charlotte Pierce with Keller Williams Experience Realty, and I want to work for you. When buyers call me, they hear the professionalism within my voice. I strive to make a connection and ensure them that I use the most up-to-date technology in real estate, and I will go that extra mile to find my clients a home. Now is the time to buy. Now is the time to call me, Charlotte Pierce with Keller Williams Experience Realty.
For over 65 years, the Old Vate House has been keeping your boat water ready. Family owned and operated, we proudly service and sell Mercury, Mercruiser, and Yamaha with quality name brand parts. Our certified mechanics offer the fastest turnaround times in the area on all maintenance and repairs, keeping your boat going, saving you time and money. Keep your boat on the water with the Old Vate House, 2005 Irvin Cobb Drive in Paducah, or online at theoldvatehouse.com.
Being the largest independently owned, family-operated towing company in the United States, Western Rivers holds fast to traditional core values of the maritime industry, where our customers and employees are treated like family. We have been a leader in the river transportation since 1996 and still going strong. Our commitment to safety and service are what makes us the right choice to meet your transportation needs and can deliver goods anywhere along the inland waterway system. Call us today.
Welcome back. Dave, talking about some of the men you just mentioned, and all these folks I've heard of and high caliber people in my mind. But as you kind of come on in that Dravo Mechlin area that I knew you from too, you look at the history, Neville Island and those men up there, and some of those men that made I don't say sacrifice, but they did, but still got things going on in this industry today that are still affecting us today. For vessels being built and that was a wealth of knowledge to me, from coming over there too. Some of the men are influential in my life. Of course, spent most of my career there at Mid-South at TECO and Metropolis. Tommy Griggs helped break me in the pilot house, and like the rest of you, you come in on your days off and steered, or on your time off, and you didn't get paid for that. You're hungry, you wanted it, and Tommy Griggs, Clarence Lowry, and he was a Crounce man, and then Captain Leonard Wallington, because I'll never forget, Crounce, Mid-South was a lot alike.
Very much so.
Kind of like the old saying that somebody had to die before you could get on over there and go to work. And
we were together all the time.
Exactly. Yeah, that's true. You're right. And you can tell they're not there nowadays. Yeah. But when I was going to get my license and went to Captain Leonard, and he said, "Well, son, you can get your license, but I'm not going to hire you. You know, we don't make pilots."
Heard that.
You know, so you kind of baptized under fire a little bit, so to speak. And that didn't deter me because I was going to do it. And once I got it, and I made myself available, then the opportunity did come. So we were blessed that. But those three men on the river that I think highly of. That, of course, Tommy's passed on. Clarence has too now, and Leonard. Well, all three of them have gone. You know, so but they helped mold me and create what I am today with that there too. So
we were you and I were talking earlier about these. Jesse Brandt, George Crounce, some of these. The guys that started these
pioneers,
the pioneers, and it always, when somebody talks about that, it always comes to mind to me back in the middle late '70s. George Crounce stood right up at the fuel dock in Green River, was up there, and he said, "Someday we'll take coal up this river." And that was the craziest thing. I mean, that's where the mines are. That's where you mine coal. And of course, they put power plants up there. Of course, they were sitting on top of coal fields.
Yeah, right there.
And I thought to myself, man, he's crazy. They take coal up the Green River now.
Yeah.
How did that man see that?
Yeah.
I mean, it's amazing.
I mean, and stuff like that stands out in your mind when you talk with that, because it sounds ridiculous, because we all know how many millions of tons of coal come out of that river.
And Jesse and them seeing what the tank barge industry was doing.
Yes.
It's amazing.
Yeah.
It's amazing.
Of course, I never got the privilege of meeting Captain Brent. I think he passed away in '82, maybe. Does that sound about right? '83, somewhere in that time frame?
Probably.
I hate to say that, but I think it was. But, I started on the river in '81. But when I heard stories of him and the pioneer that he was, and just like the Dravo guys up there, they still got things going on this day in this industry that they helped create, that family helped create and move on. So,
well, George Crounce was an innovator in the fact that in the 50s, and TVA had not been there that long, so he actually had the idea of bringing coal to these TVA power plants on the Tennessee. And he, what I understand, he worked for Igert at the time. He presented the idea. They didn't like it, so he started this himself with one boat. And of course, it became what it was. And like Harley said, to take coal up the river on the Ohio, those were Union docks. And so you had to become Union. I hired on with Crounce and had to join the Steel Workers Union. I thought, what the hell's a steel worker got to do with me being a deckhand on the river? It made no difference. The company still belonged to George Crounce in the end, and was totally within. I remember the union people wanted to give the people with Crounce a raise, a certain amount of money one year. George Crounce came in and topped that raise and said, "Here. This is what I'm going to give my people. You really don't have much. They're still my people. You're here for a reason. That's so I can go into these docks on the Ohio River." That was always impressive to me.
I agree. He's known for that loyalty that he had to his people, and in turn they were loyal to him. It seemed like,
as Butch said, an innovator. I mean, he saw early on standardization was the key.
Right.
If you rode one Crounce boat, you had to roll them all.
Yes.
Because every piece of equipment on there was the same. And they still today build the same barge.
Right.
A Crounce barge, and it's probably the best made barge
I agree.
out there.
Yeah.
I mean, you sink a Crounce barge, and I know I've done something. But you've done something. Because they built a good barge.
Well, it seems like
you think about when you went to work for Crounce, and that, especially after working for a company like any company, but Alter. There was all that hard rigging.
All that rigging.
There was three pieces of rigging that made up one piece to to put a barge in tow, and you went over to Crounce, and there were winches, and you thought, oh my God, I've dreamed about this. You know, you laid your fore and aft wire, and you tightened up a winch. You didn't have to pull a ratchet. It's all uniform. You got on one Crounce tow, you were on the same Crounce tow throughout the company.
And you walked on that first Crounce boat and you looked around. Where's the rig? Well, they ain't none in it. Boy, I have come to heaven. Lord, I have found it.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's true.
No more packing 140 sets at St. Louis. and
No
New Orleans.
more of that. No more of that.
You know, with Crounce, we think like we're kind of hitting on Crounce a little bit, which is a good thing because it's a good company to think about. But as you think about, every one of here's got Lower River experience. The Crounce on the lower wasn't a whole lot of that, was there? I mean, more maybe Memphis,
Memphis,
TVA, and that's
New
about it. New Madrid, and that's about
Steam
it.
plant.
Yeah. So that's not that there was anything wrong with that or anything like that, but it seemed like in those days they probably owned the bulk of the coal business on the Ohio, Tennessee, and Cumberland. You know, so but the lower.
Which I think it was right at 27 or 30 boats right there in the mid-70s, just taking care of the Tennessee and the Cumberland and Ohio.
Yeah.
They are all single screw boats.
All of them.
One engine, one wheel, and so it was years. Into the 90s before they ever built a twin screw boat. The 3600 at first, and then I think they went on to 4200. But a 3600 was just two 1800s slapped together.
That's my understanding. It's the exact. You've got
Right.
two Crounce boats together.
Exactly.
When they built those twin screws, I've never been on one, but they tell me that basically that's what they are. They're two 18s put together. Is what they designed. Still the same equipment, same steering pump, same wind. Everything is the same as standardized.
Yeah, they're building a lower boat now, and I'd say it's going to be close to the same, maybe a little larger, but it'll be the same.
A lot of the same
Design
package,
of that.
probably.
Right. Well, you stop and think about the tonnage that went up the Tennessee and Cumberland rivers back in those days too, and nowadays we're looking at politics, I guess, kind of catching up there at Kentucky Lock with trying to expand and open up, a 1,200 per chamber there now. It's almost like, in my opinion, you correct me if I'm wrong, but in my opinion, it's about 30 years too late.
Yeah.
I think, I mean,
Behind the curve.
there's enough 30 years delay could have paid for that 30 years ago, I feel like, or more.
Yeah, and
so.
I mean, all the coal plants on Tennessee are gone.
Gone. Yeah, the big tonnage.
Yeah, I
is
mean,
gone.
we used to keep boats, running round and round
TVA,
to Colbert and to
Johnsonville.
Yeah.
But they're gone now.
A lot of, and I think one thing that you can see to replace that is the petroleum side of the industry, or whether it's containers that we talked on that a little bit while ago too. If containers ever does take off, it's been talking about container on barge for 20 years now, I guess, but it is kind of doing some of that, with Western Rivers, capitalize on some of that. But what can you innovate to bring more industry up those rivers? It's almost like they've gotten more to tourism, maybe dollars is more up there on those lakes and stuff than the towing industry is. I don't know. So.
You can't push into the bank on the Tennessee River hardly anymore. There's so many camps.
Somebody's
Now, I'm
dying.
not joking. It's that thick. Even on the safety land, Tennessee's the only river I ever worked had designated first class and second class harbors to pull into, and they've got docks and camps in those now.
Yeah,
I don't
kinda.
know.
And you better know where you're at too.
Yeah, first class was 10 foot deep to the bank. Second class may be that a little less.
Right.
I was telling Jeff, he says he's a real estate agent there in Savannah, and I said, that must be lucrative. But I've talked to guys, a few that I've worked with from.
We'll be right back.
Sure.
Be right back, folks.
Being the largest independently owned, family-operated towing company in the United States, Western Rivers holds fast to traditional core values of the maritime industry, where our customers and employees are treated like family. We have been a leader in the river transportation since 1996 and still going strong. Our commitment to safety and service are what makes us the right choice to meet your transportation needs and can deliver goods anywhere along the inland waterway system. Call us today.
When I stepped into the world of real estate, I had a passion to help clients find that perfect place to call home. I'm Charlotte Pierce with Keller Williams Experience Realty, and I want to work for you. When buyers call me, they hear the professionalism within my voice. I strive to make a connection and ensure them that I use the most up-to-date technology in real estate and I will go that extra mile to find my clients a home. Now is the time to buy. Now is the time to call me, Charlotte Pierce with Keller Williams Experience Realty.
For over 65 years, the Old Vate House has been keeping your boat water ready. Family owned and operated, we proudly service and sell Mercury, Mercruiser, and Yamaha with quality name brand parts. Our certified mechanics offer the fastest turnaround times in the area on all maintenance and repairs, keeping your boat going, saving you time and money. Keep your boat on the water with the Old Vate House, 2005 Irvin Cobb Drive in Paducah, or online at theoldvatehouse.com.
Metropolis Big John proudly serves the river industry by supplying fresh meat, fresh produce, and groceries to serve your needs. Having at least 3 fresh meat and fresh produce deliveries per week ensures freshness when it arrives. Our policy is always cut and package to order. Be sure to check out our weekly online specials. The money saved more than offsets the delivery cost. We are located in Metropolis, Illinois.
Welcome back. Cap Butch, finish up what you was telling there on that.
I was talking to Jeff and earlier, and he mentioned the fact that he's a real estate agent in Savannah, Tennessee, and the last time I ran the Tennessee River for MG Transport was in '87, and I remember that river below, well, the stretch between Kentucky Lock and upriver to Clifton. And from a mate that I worked with Artco, Ricky told me that, and he's from Beach Creek, he said, "You wouldn't believe it, Cap." He said, he mentioned Mousetail Eddy. He said, there's $500,000 homes. I said, "You can't be talking about the right-hand side going up." He said, "Yes." I said, "That's nothing but a floodplain. It was just flat river bottoms." He said, "There's houses on stilts that are $500,000. I said, "There was nothing out there, nothing."
Yeah.
And he said, "It's built up."
Yeah.
I wouldn't even know it.
Yeah. I'm like you. It's been a long time since I saw that, probably in the mid-'80s, probably last time I was up there. So I can assure you I'd be just as shocked as you would on that, too, on that.
They took a lot of our hunting and fishing ground when the river's up.
I would think.
Sure.
I fished around cabins, fished around mine down there a little bit.
Yeah.
There you go. Well, let me ask y'all a question. Everybody chime in when they want to do this. And this has always been, I've always wondered why, how, or what, and there's no right, wrong, or reason about this. But and since all of us been in here in this industry forever, what do you all think the criteria or protocol should be when you're naming a vessel? What's the proper, your own opinion? Not that you're right or wrong, but Dave, I'll start with you. What's your feelings on when the vessel's named after somebody?
Traditionally, I guess it's been whatever the owner wanted to name it.
Sure.
And of course, there are a lot of boats out there with names that are very meaningful to us, people that we've known, people we've worked with or known of in the industry, and that's, or say the spouse or children of people in the industry, which I think that's very appropriate, very significant. But of course, then on the other side of the coin, we see some of the corporate I guess mentality come in there, and the boats are named after bankers and lawyers and board members, and that has no emotional attachment to any of us. So I certainly prefer the where the boats are named after significant people that we know or
who's had their
hand,
in my opinion, they've had
their hand in the industry, help grow it, help being part of it. But again, they own it, the equipment, they can do whatever they want to do.
Kind of like they write the check, they can do it. But I agree with you. If somebody's got skin in the game, so to speak, and they want to honor somebody like Captain Harley here, and you yourself too, have been honored at, and it's always good to hear that. Somebody that you know their life story or struggle, whatever it's been, and they worked hard. It's very, very deserving.
It makes you smile when you see a boat with one of your buddies' names on it. Or
it does.
Former bosses or whatever, somebody that helped you out along the way, and you brings back a lot of good thoughts.
Yeah. Captain Harley, what's your thoughts on that?
Well, like I said, we'll see them, a lot of companies, they'll they'll name after some bankers or lawyers or something like that. And they do, and they do their employees and their families too. And you think, at first thought, you think, well, why in the heck they name one after a banker? Well, that banker might have been the one that made sure that you got a check that week, because things were down, and he stuck with that. He stuck with that owner. He stuck by his side. Right. And same thing with lawyers. So there's a lot of you want to give if you own boats and you're gonna name, you want to give some recognition to the people that helped you, and your children and stuff like that. So I like the boats with the names of people much better. I don't care for the city of, and I don't care for that. It's just there wasn't much thought to it to me. And I know you've got some people, whether it be Shoreside that stuck with you, whether and helped build a company, or whether it be your bank that stuck with you, or attorney, or whatever, or children. City of, it's on the flood wall. It's good enough. It's good enough. I agree. That's some people do. I don't care. I like the boats with the names. I agree. And I've had two named after me. Is that right? Well, when James bought TVT from Bill named the first boat after me. Right. And of course they sold that boat, and Jeff said, "We'll get another named after you." I said, "Oh, okay." And sure enough, he did. He did. He held his word, didn't he? Yeah. He's good to his word. That's right. He sure did. What about you, Captain Butch? What's your opinion on that? I mean, what do you thought?
I've never really had an opinion until I noticed. With Dave and Harley both, boats were named for them, years ago. But then both of these guys went on up into management, so it wasn't surprising. I thought it was great that these guys had spent years on the boats as captains and had worked out there. But so the first time I really noticed was, and ACBL was big in initiating this. A good friend and one I was raised with in Marshall County, Ricky Hughes. Yes. Yep. And Ricky is still with ACBL, probably 45 years. Every bit of it. And then Richard Gettelfinger, or Bear, as everybody knows. Yep. And these guys were still on the river, and Ricky's been on the Jeff boat for years, but then there's the other boat named for him, the Ricky Hughes. And so that's the first time I took notice and thought, well, this is pretty good.
In my phone, I have to have Ricky, I have Ricky Hughes the boat, Ricky Hughes the man,
Right.
So when I call them there, so.
So I think that's the first time I thought, well, that is good that a company recognizes a man that's still out here.
Yeah, those christening ceremonies, I was down at Captain Ricky's when they done ACBL did his, and pretty impressive how they did that down there, and those are pretty awesome ceremonies. And you see the industry, I think, in the last 15 years, it kind of took more of a pride in bringing, I won't say entertainment, bringing people aboard and having ceremonies and having the chaplains and coming aboard and blessing the vessel, and families breaking the bottle of champagne over. I've been a part of some of those, and it's really I think it's a prideful thing, and I mean in a good way, that you can celebrate that individual's accomplishments, and everybody can kind of get to see what that. Because you think of your 40-something years you talked about, look, it wasn't all roses, was it?
No.
And when and that time of management and wondering about payroll and all that stuff. There's a lot of things that went on through the years to get that. So, it takes special people to get that accomplishment. Now, it's good to see.
I wasn't to go back. I wasn't take anything from Dave or Harley in the fact that they went in the office, but it made sense to me. They had spent many years on the boats, but then they went into management. Not to downplay it, but I thought, well, that's good. That's good that the company will recognize these guys. But I thought, well, you had to pretty much be in a management position. And so then for a company like ACBL to name a boat after someone who's still on the river and continues to be on the river, that was pretty impressive. And if I'm not mistaken, they've named a boat after a chief engineer, or maybe that's Ingram. I'm not sure.
Is that right? Ozzie, is that right?
The
Ozzy's
Ozzy's was a port
Okay.
engineer,
Yeah.
but ACBL's, they've got some named after long-term barge maintenance guys,
Right.
fleet managers, as well as other vessel, captains and other vessel personnel.
But you have to understand, so let's say, look at John Eckstein. He's got babies everywhere. No, I'm not. So, he names one after his wife. It's understandable. He owns the company.
Is that right?
And then he's got babies that he's got young ones that he named boats for. So,
Sure.
I mean, if a man has got the acumen to own a company, you can't blame him for naming
right.
it after his family members.
That's right. That's right. That's true. I know we're about to wind up here time a little bit, but my thought is I kind of agree with y'all on that. I think it needs to be more with somebody who's had hands-on in the industry like that. But like you said, somebody said here a while ago, you did, Harley, about you don't know what banker kept your payroll going too. I mean, there's a lot of hidden stories that on towboats we don't catch. We don't know.
There's people in all parts of this whole thing that carried credit for you for a long time when things were hard or something. So there's some people that stuck by people when nobody else would stick by them.
We'll be right back.
Are you thinking about selling a home on your own? Charlotte, what should they do?
Grab a pen and paper, find out your payoff, price your home, clean up and make repairs, stage your home, take professional photos, upload photos, put your home on the market, market your home. Schedule showings, schedule open houses, negotiate offers, write a contract, hire an attorney or title company to complete closing.
Can you remember all that? Me either. Just call Charlotte Pierce with Keller Williams Experience Realty and let her list your home. I certainly would.
Metropolis Big John proudly serves the river industry by supplying fresh meat, fresh produce, and groceries to serve your needs. Having at least 3 fresh meat and fresh produce deliveries per week ensures freshness when it arrives. Our policy is always cut and package to order. Be sure to check out our weekly online specials. The money saved more than offsets the delivery cost. We are located in Metropolis, Illinois.
For over 65 years, the Old Vate House has been keeping your boat water ready. Family owned and operated, we proudly service and sell Mercury, Mercruiser, and Yamaha with quality name brand parts. Our certified mechanics offer the fastest turnaround times in the area on all maintenance and repairs, keeping your boat going, saving you time and money. Keep your boat on the water with the Old Vate House, 2005 Irvin Cobb Drive in Paducah, or online at theoldvatehouse.com.
Being the largest independently owned, family-operated towing company in the United States, Western Rivers holds fast to traditional core values of the maritime industry, where our customers and employees are treated like family. We have been a leader in the river transportation since 1996 and still going strong. Our commitment to safety and service are what makes us the right choice to meet your transportation needs and can deliver goods anywhere along the inland waterway system. Call us today.
Welcome back, folks. Guys, we've talked about, we all been through this generational thing. I mean, I'm sure older guys out there, when they saw me step on a towboat at 125 pounds, just shook their head, soaking wet. And we've all been through that. We've all wondered what older men thought about our work. Sometimes we didn't care, but I'll start out with you, Dave. What's your thought on this generation thing that we're going through now with the work ethic you see out here now?
Well, it's a challenge for sure. I mean, a lot of these kids, they come out or young men, they'll come out on a boat and they have no practical life experience. They're probably good on a computer and a cell phone and a Nintendo or whatever the latest Xbox or whatever it is.
Sure.
But as far as you mentioned about having to learn to sweep and mop and do all those kind of things, make coffee. So many of them, they've had zero experience with any kind of really structure or disciplined life. And that's,
Sure.
I mean, that's something that hopefully we can teach them and maybe help give them a little better work ethic. But it's definitely a challenge.
It is. Captain John, what about yourself?
Well, I think Butch and Dave touched on it about the steersman. Like, we got up and did it on our own. Now then, they want it kind of, you owe it to me. attitude. You know, like I've been here so many years. Yeah, yeah. And instead of desiring it, I mean, I wanted to be a pilot before I even saw a towboat up close.
Sure.
Because I see the guys coming home driving the shiny cars and spending money. And,
Good life.
yeah, a good life. I knew what I wanted to do, and I was going to get there one way or the other. But and we had also, as Butch touched on, we had when we got on the boat, probably the youngest deckhand on there had 25 years experience. So you looked up to him. You know, he wasn't a co-worker. You looked up to him. And you better have that rigging run out, or you'd get a monkey fist on the back of your head when you wasn't looking. Or you'd know to do it next time.
That's right. That's right.
And they just kind of enforced the law a little bit. The captain really didn't have to fool with any of that. It was took care of downstairs. They took care of that part. The captain took care of clerical stuff. The cook ran the galley. And the engineer sure ran the engine room.
Sure.
You know, you didn't go back there and just get a tool off the board and go tighten the sounder up. You asked, please, sir, may I please?
Exactly.
And I will bring it back.
Yes.
And
You
he'll write
better,
it
hadn't
down.
you?
You will bring it back.
Right. What about you, Captain Harley? What's this?
Well, it's, you know, and John Henry said, I wanted to be a pilot. That's what I wanted to be. And the money was going to be nice. I wanted that too. But mainly I wanted to be a pilot. And once I got in that position, and pretty much all of us up here, I brag on us, we're top shelf pilots.
I agree.
But the reason we are is we have continually studied our craft. We have continually watched the dikes and watched the water and watched the sandbars.
Kept notes.
And kept notes and took pride in it. These boys come on the boat now, I can't knock them all. I've always felt it's got a lot to do with the boat, and Butch was someplace where he had a regular crew, and I think he'll probably agree with me. 90% of these guys, when they get on the boat, they're on the fence, and they can fall off either side. If they get on an atmosphere where the work ethic and how you work and you're part of the team, if that's good, they'll follow that side.
Exactly.
And if it's not, if it's a bunch of backbiting, doing little as I can or whatever, they'll follow that side, and you can never rescue them off of it. So
how the head goes, so goes the body.
it does. It does.
Captain Bush, what's your thoughts on that?
That's pretty much the same as what all the guys. It's a different culture.
It is true.
Because when we started out there in the 70s and so on, and early 80s, you weren't enabled. You simply learned quickly that there was a job to do, and the fact of me seeing people catch a boat and within a week get off, it just didn't happen. Just didn't happen because you came out and you learned what there was to do on a towboat, and you sucked it up. I mean, you simply, because you, first of all, I needed a job. There wasn't any romance to working on the river.
And you had
even
pride.
though, growing up in Marshall County, where you could see Kentucky Lake and the Tennessee River, I never noticed boats and barges when I was a kid. I gave a damn about it. My dad was fascinated with it because he worked on Kentucky Dam in the 40s.
Sure.
But I needed a job, so that's what the river did for me. And so the disparity between what a deckhand made, for instance, when I worked for Crounce, what I made as a deckhand and what a captain made may have been a little over twice the money. A captain made a little 2.5 times more money than I did as a deckhand.
Right.
The difference in what a captain makes nowadays versus a deckhand is quite a gulf there. But even so, a deckhand, let's say for Artco, is making $60 or $80 more on the day than I did as a pilot in the early 80s for MG Transport.
My first pilot job was 95.
Yeah. Yeah.
I made $50 a day for alter, and that was not day for day. That was straight time, $50 a day.
Right.
Went to $100 shortly after hiring on with Crounce.
Right.
And a deckhand nowadays will make over $200 a day.
Right. Yep. Well, that's kind of want to highlight to this, and we'll wind up the show here shortly. But one thing I want to stress to our viewers out here, and that's why I felt led to call you men, because I know you have a right to brag on yourself, because you all are some of the cream of the crop. I'm sure we got going to have some viewers out here that's in their 30s and 40s and they're heavy tow pilots already, or running east to west with unit tows, and they think they got it going on. But you need to stop and think about one thing. You couldn't be where you're at if it wasn't for guys like these right here. These guys is what paved the way. I mean, these guys is what sacrificed their time. They didn't get to come in on their days off and get paid to steer. They come in for free. When you think about what Hardy said a while ago, talking about honing your craft. Now, where do you hear things like that today? You hear it in sports. You hear NBA players saying, well, I'm honing my craft. Well, to me, that's playing basketball. That's not honing your craft. If you make millions of dollars at it, that's good. But when you honed your craft in what's on K-Row gauge, you can run backside of Wolf Island, things like that. What are you, young generation, doing out there to change that direction? Because what are you going to deal with when you're in your 50s and 60s and that generation that's in their 20s and 30s right now? If you think we're sitting up here shaking our head, that men shook their head at us too, what I want to convey that message, what are you doing on your vessels and for your companies that you can change the tide of this kind of deterioration of what we kind of see of this culture and work ethic? What can you do different? And pay tribute to these men out here that sacrifice their time away from their families. I'm Captain Hardy. We talked earlier about when you lost your dad and you was down in the middle of nowhere, and it was people like those folks down there that helped get you home and get you off. And we've all got stories like that. It's kind of hard to find those people nowadays. So I want to see the river industry start paying tribute and homage to those who've paid that way. And you got any thoughts on this as we kind of wind this up, guys?
I don't know how they would pay homage to us, I don't. I've never really thought about that.
They can pay homage to us by carrying on doing better.
Yeah,
Do better
right.
than we did.
Yeah. Carrying on that tradition and maintaining, standards of integrity for safety and leadership. Your counseling boys on there that just, we got generations of kids out there that don't have no raising. A lot of times you're that. You're the one kind of, not that you are meant to do that, but I mean, what does it hurt to kind of pat a boy on the back who's he's going through trouble at home? So that's my way of trying to pay homage in honor of you guys and the countless of men out there that we hope to have more shows like this to wind this up. So, folks, we hope you've enjoyed our show here of River Life, the rest of the story. We've laughed, cut up, and told stories, and probably an hour wasn't really long enough to do justice for this, but I hope you enjoy this, and we look forward to seeing you again. Thank you.
You've been watching A River Life, the rest of the story, with Captain John David Arnold, Captain Harley Hall, Captain Dave Dewey, Captain Butch Harrington, and your host, Captain Larry Barnes. Brought to you by Barnes Marine. Sponsored in part by the Old Bait House, Metropolis Big John, and Western Rivers Boat Management. We'll see you next time on A River Life, the rest of the story.